Good afternoon, everybody. David Gross with Conde Systems, and it's my privilege and honor to have Craig with us from Digital Art Solutions. Craig, how are you?
I am excellent, thank you.
So I hope you're going to help us learn some stuff that we can translate into money.
Well,
What are you
that's what
going to do?
it's all about. Here's the scoop. CorelDRAW, most popular graphic software in our industry. Extremely popular software, extremely powerful software, extremely complex software. And so compared to like Adobe Illustrator, I'd say it's quite a bit easier to use than Illustrator if you've never done graphic software before, but it's pretty overwhelming when you're brand new to it. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about kind of those essential things that you have to know. We're going to talk about color and how to manage color for digital printing. We're going to talk about getting your workspace set up and all the kind of things. I like to call this section basically things people pretend they already know. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up my workspace for a full color workflow. And I'm apologizing in advance for my messy desktop, but I'm going to go ahead and close down CorelDRAW. I'm using CorelDRAW 2018, and this is the latest version. We'd typically like to see our clients in 2018, X8, or 2017, preferably 2017 or 2018, because those are the newer versions that Corel still supports, which is important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my F8 key, and I'm going to launch CorelDRAW, and it's asking me to overwrite my current workspace. And what you're going to see here in a second is what CorelDRAW looks like the very first time you open it. Now, if you're running our Smart Designer add-on software for Corel, which I notice a majority of the people on the webcast have that, we've made some of these things a little bit easier for you in terms of setting up your workspace. And I'll
So it
point that
doesn't
out.
blow your program out of the water.
No,
It just puts it back to a factory default
yeah,
mode.
our stuff's still here. All of our stuff's still right up over here.
Excellent.
So yeah, so first thing that I'm going to do is you'll notice over here I have this old toolbar over here. This toolbar is actually set up for our StoneCut 3 Plus software, and this is a specialized software that will drive a vinyl cutter directly from Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW. And so when the software installed, it said, hey, listen, I noticed you have Creative Cloud on your system, and I noticed you had CorelDRAW 2018 and 2017 on your system. And so it just installed this little toolbar into my little programs. And what I'm going to do with this toolbar, I'm just going to take it over here, and I'm going to dock it right there. And then I'm going to kind of slide this over, give myself a little more screen real estate. So I'm going to dock my toolbar, and people have other add-on programs, and it's kind of cool having toolbars that you can load into your program so you can access features. So we'll come back to that one a little bit later. Now, first thing you're going to see this welcome screen, and it's a little overwhelming here, but you'll see workspaces. So you'll see default. That's the one you want, the default workspace. So if you get to this point, you don't want to be messing around with all this other stuff. And let me explain why that is. The default workspace is the recommended workspace for Corel Corporation. They have other workspaces. So for instance, if you were to click on light, it would turn 3/4 of your CorelDRAW features off. Okay, so most people I like to have the whole menu. I might not use the whole menu, but I kind of like to have access to it. So we don't want to turn that off. Turn that one on. X6 inspired is the resistance to change workspace. So that's the workspace for folks that have the old CorelDRAW. When CorelDRAW went to X7, the whole look and feel of the software changed. And so if you like that old, antiquated look and feel of the software and you find it all warm and fuzzy, you can do that, but be silly to do that. Touch workspace is if you're working with a tablet-based computer. It makes the soft points on the software bigger, so you can select them with your fingers, have larger icons, supports all the touch-enabled devices like styluses. And my laptop has Microsoft Ink on it, so I have a stylus, so if I want to draw on my screen, I can do that. But you don't need to switch to touch workspace to do that, just so you know. And then you have these specialty workspaces for like illustration and page layout. You can make it look just like Adobe Illustrator if you want. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but default, that's what we want to do. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to open a new document. And one of the things that's kind of neat about CorelDRAW is there's multitudes of ways of doing exactly the same thing. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of that. If I wanted to open up a new document, probably the obvious way to do it would go to File, New. I could also click on the New Document icon here. I could also click on or do the keyboard shortcut Control N, or check it out, next to the welcome screen, it's a plus button here. New document. What you do next is really important. Okay, so we're going to talk about that for a second. The very first time you open up a new document in CorelDRAW, it's going to kind of ask you to make some decisions about how that document is going to be set up. So for instance, if you were doing sublimation and you had an 800 series Sawgrass printer, your maximum page size for an 800 series Sawgrass printer is, David?
Well, so if you feed the 13 by 21, so it's really 13 by 21 is sort of the maximum paper size with the bypass tray.
Okay, so if you were going to set it up with the bypass tray, you could come over here and do a custom page size.
Or we could set it for your heat press size, right, which is, a little bit less. So I guess if you're trying to max out your press, generally speaking, it's a 12 by 18. But 13 by 19, 20, something like that. It again, just depends on what you're doing.
Yeah, and you can also set it to like your default paper size. So if you're using a lot of tabloid size paper, you can just set it to tabloid, and then it's set to 11/17. And you notice the default orientation is vertical. If you're Canadian and you prefer to work in metric system, you can switch that to centimeters, or I wouldn't probably do millimeters, I'd probably do centimeters. But this is setting your defaults for all future current documents. Also, number of pages, I have it set to a single page, but primary color mode, this is a big one. So here's where this gets confusing for people. If you look at your sublimation printer, and Oki Data printer is a little bit different, a white toner ink printer, but if you look at a sublimation printer, or let's say a Roland VersaCam printer, the cartridges that are in the machine will say cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Some of the printers have like light cyan, light magenta, they have 6 or 8 cartridges. So the conventional wisdom says, hey man, primary color mode, looking at my printer, it's got CMYK carts in there. Let's keep that at CMYK. Wrong answer, RGB. Your printer is actually an RGB device. Your scanner is an RGB device. Your camera on your iPhone or your Android is an RGB device. RGB stands for red, green, blue. It emulates, it's a color model that emulates the way the human eye works. And your eye has cones. And you have red cones, green cones, and blue cones. And your eyes take in light, they translate, those cones translate that information to your brain, and that's how you perceive color. And so if you're a colorblind person, a lot of times your red cones aren't working properly, and so you kind of see reds as grays or browns. So RGB emulates the way the human eye works, and it works it works on a kind of a trick. And the trick it does is on your computer monitor that you guys are all staring at right now, you have clusters of 3 light emitting diodes. You have thousands of them, and they're clusters of 3s. And there's thousands and thousands of those packed onto your monitor. They're called LEDs, light emitting diodes, okay? Or you can have an OLED, that's the newer type, organic LED. So the way that works is those little diodes are projecting light. When an LED projects 100% of its value for red, green, and blue, it's creating white. All the lights are turned on. That max value is 255. When those LEDs are turned off, they're at 0, 0, 0, it defaults back to black. And so the idea with RGB is they're turning on the light and they're adding color all the way up to white. And they're subtracting color all the way out to black. So it's a color model that's used to create a huge, wide, giant gamut of colors, a gamut of colors that your eyes can see. And if we go to CMYK colors, what happens is we have a reduced color gamut. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. It's typically used for doing offset printing on a printing press. So on a printing press, what they would do is they would have dots of cyan, which is a blue, and dots of yellow, and they'd put those dots together on top of each other, and then the plates would print those dots onto, say, white paper. That would create green. So that's what we call an additive color model. We're adding colors on top of each other to create all the colors in the rainbow. RGB is subtractive. You start out with white, then you subtract your way all the way down to black. So here's the scoop. If you use CMYK colors in your designs, you have a limited color gamut. Your colors aren't going to be super bright. And one of the colors you're going to get crucified on is red. You just can't get a poppin' awesome red in CMYK. You just can't. And so RGB colors can produce a wider color gamut. And so how your printer tricks itself into doing RGB colors is this. Printer's got nozzles, right? CMYK nozzles, you got CMYK ink. It can lay that ink down in innumerably more complex ways than a dot that's being printed on a plate with paper. And so it can do all this kind of special mixing of these dots to create a color gamut. So we want to have the RGB colors here as our standard colors. Rendering resolution applies to bitmap effects, not vector-based artwork. A bitmap is a set of pixels. So a photo is a set of pixels. Most of your web graphics are sets of pixels. And then rendering resolution is just setting the maximum resolution of 300 dpi for any kind of photographic type images that you're using. So we want to leave that there. Preview mode, we want to leave that there. Color settings, okay? This stuff you don't want to mess with unless somebody tells you to make a change. So when the good folks over at Conde Systems set somebody up with the sublimation system, they set up a specialized Windows driver settings for you on your Windows operating system. And then when we go to this screen in Corel, what they're going to do is they're going to tell you to go to rendering intent here and switch that to perceptual. And so what rendering intent does is it changes the way colors are viewed that are outside of your color gamut. So if you have that color's not quite capable of being printed with your printer, it just changes the way it's viewed. So it makes it look more closely to what the original should look like if it's out of gamut. So I think that's probably, David, the only major change you guys make in the document settings.
And if you're a professional photographer, then generally we might tell you to go and change the RGB profile to Adobe RGB 98.
Yep.
But again, it just depends on your situation. But those are we'll call it the generic settings. In Corel, the newer version of Corel have made all this almost automated.
Yep.
Where there's just very little work.
Super duper cool. So we're going to click OK, and we got a new document. And so next thing we're going to do, this is a little scary, we're going to come over to our color palette here, and we are going to turn that palette off. We are actually going to shut her down. I know that sounds crazy. So if you come down here to your color palettes, you notice in color palettes under window, you'll notice that the default palette is checked. So I'm going to uncheck that palette, and then the palette that I'm going to check is 2. I'm going to check Pantone matching system, solid coded, and then the other palette I'm going to check is going to be Pantone Go or Pantone GOE. And
yeah, I wish I knew how it was actually pronounced, but I don't.
I asked the Pantone guy and he didn't know. So I'm going with Pantone Go. So I'm sure that stands for some crazy acronym. But the difference between these two palettes is this is the old school color palette. The regular Pantone solid coded is your old school color palette. Most corporations in the United States of America or anywhere in the world have specific Pantone colors that they utilize to communicate the colors for their logo. And that's the same with schools. Like, so Arizona State University uses Pantone 123 for their gold, athletic gold. In GOE is a more modern palette, which has a greater variety of colors.
It's a process color palette based on LAB values.
Correct. And it will still produce a color separation for screen printing. And so when we use these colors in our designs, it will create a color separation for screen printing. But it's also an easy way to communicate colors from, say, I used to work in Sherwin-Williams Paint Store when I was in college, and people come in with those color chips, and they say, I want that color. And then we would pick the color out of the color chip, we go to our little formula book, and we'd mix that paint color up for the customer. And it's the same kind of way that these Pantone colors work. They're formulas. And if you take a color, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle in Corel, and we are going to pick just a random crazy color here. We're going to pick this burgundy color here. And we are going to click on the little paint bucket right down here. Whoop. Okay. And that's going to open up our little Pantone, our little color edit fill function for editing fills. What you're going to notice here is if I go over here to color models, there's a color model for CMYK and there's a color model for RGB. If I choose this color as a CMYK color, if I switch it to CMYK, the color is going to slightly change. You guys probably can't see that on your monitors really well, but it's slightly darker in CMYK. If I switch this to RGB, it's going to be exactly the same color, because Pantone spot colors in the Pantone color model are all RGB formulas. So what Pantone did, which is pretty smart, they created RGB color formulas, and they named them and gave them numbers, and then they trademarked that, so they can charge companies like Adobe or CorelDRAW, Corel Corporation, a royalty for using their numberings and naming system. That's why they did that. And then they can also sell those little fan fold books for $150 that have all the colors printed in them, and that's a pretty handy thing to have. So Pantone colors are all RGB formulas right there. So there's your formula right there. So if you come over here and you select these palettes, you should select one of them as your default palette. And for me, because I do a lot of vinyl graphics and do a lot of screen printing related graphics, I'm going to select my default palette as the Pantone matching system. But that's kind of up to you how you want to do that. One of the things that I would recommend doing right out of the chute is changing your default color, your default font size for fonts to a larger point size. If I click on my text tool over here and I go over here to my drop-down list, I'm going to switch this to 100 point, but not for a paragraph text. I'm going to switch it to 100 point for a line of text, which is artistic text when you're typing in individual lines. I'm then going to come over here to my Pantone solid coded chart, and I'm going to select left mouse on process black. I'm going to make that color my default black for my text. I'm going to click on any one of these three drawing tools. I'll just pick the rectangle tool. I will right click on Pantone Process Black here. So that's going to set my default outline color for any object I create as Process Black. And then a couple other things I would do. I'm just going to draw a box real quick here. I'm going to go over here to where the little proportional scaling button is. I'm going to click on lock ratio so that anytime I size something now, it's going to do the height and the width proportionally. That's kind of a big deal. And then last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Tools, Options. I'm going to go to my document under General. I'm going to say, I don't really want to see that startup screen, and I don't want to see the welcome screen anymore. So I'm going to say, hey, open up to a new document and show welcome screen button on tab bar. I don't need to see that, so we'll turn that off. And then it's up to me. Do I want to have it show new document dialog box every time you open up a new document? You might. And the reason that you might do that is you might shuttle between different processes. So let's say you got your sublimation printer over here and you have one page set up for that. You can save that as a preset. Then you got another page set up for your Oki data printer over here. And then you got another page set up for your DTG printer. And then you got another page set up for your laser engraver. And then you got another one set up for vinyl graphics. You can save presets for all of those. And then when the new document dialog box opens up, you can just select that preset for that project.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool feature.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I'll leave that on so I can show you guys how to do that. A couple little tweaks that I like to make that are Craig tweaks. So here's a couple tweaks I make. Number one, clip art, power clip frame. When you power clip a graphic into a take a photo and power clip it into an object. Okay, what will happen when you extract that? It will have an X through the middle of it, and that X through the middle of it is just telling you that's a power clip frame. That drives me crazy because if you don't turn the printing off on that, it can actually print, and it can actually show up if you export files. So what I do is I go down here and I say show lines and empty power clip frames. I just turn that off. I don't want to ever see that. I just turn that feature off. I find it annoying. And the other thing I do, this is a biggie, I go to customization and I go to command bars, and you see your tools menu over here. I switch these to medium because I'm an old man and I like to have bigger icons. And now you guys can see these better, see? So we just went ahead and did that. I'm just going to click on OK. I'm going to make one more change. I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to save settings as default. So since you guys are all going to forget that, everything we just did, I'll show you kind of how we do this Smart Designer style. So number one, over here on the right-hand side of the screen, we're running our Smart Designer add-on software for CorelDRAW. And so all this stuff that you guys see over here, this is all stuff that Corel doesn't normally have. This is us doing all this stuff. And so one of the things we have is a little feature here. It says Color Management. And right over here it says, here's your color palettes. And we have all your palettes right here. And you notice Pantone Solid Coded's right there at the top. So we can just check that one to turn the Solid Coded palette. And coincidentally, oh, wow, what's this? We have color charts. And so we have color charts for all these palettes. And so we can print out a color chart. I'll just do a DTG chart real quick here. Let's click on OK. And so we can print this chart out onto, say, a tile or onto a t-shirt. This is a chart for doing direct-to-garment printing. And once we print that chart out, we can go to the chart and we can say, hey, what color is that? That's the red I'm trying to get to. What color is that? And I said, oh, that's Pantone 683. And we can just recolor that image with 683. And we have a really neat little color swapping utility for doing that. So, so that's just a neat way to do color correction. The other thing that we do over here in Smart Designer is we have a little thing that says tutorials and PDF files. And so if I go over here and click on Training Guide, you're going to be able to open up the 228-page step-by-step training guide on art production that we've been writing over the last 25 years. And this is the most recent edition. And so this is basically your, for lack of a better word, Bible on graphics production in CorelDRAW. And all of this is bookmarked. So you can go to bookmarks, and if you wanted to learn that thing like we just did, you say maybe you want to learn the difference between bitmaps and vectors, or maybe you wanted to learn the basic skill set in CorelDRAW, or maybe you wanted to learn how to set up your workspace, right? There you go. That's all the instructions for setting up your workspace that we just went through. So that's built right into your software. And you can print this and you can make it smaller and larger, and it stays in front of your CorelDRAW window. So you can read along and actually practice. That's our own little PDF viewer. That's the Smart Designer PDF viewer. The other thing we did is if you go over here and click on tutorials and PDF files, you have all these movies that are integrated into Smart Designer, and every one of these folders represents a set of movies that are part of our system. And those movies correspond to a graphics collection. So let's say I wanted to learn how to use our smart monograms. Here's a whole set of movies on how to use our smart monograms. Or let's say you're a subscriber to our new Premiere Graphics program. Here's movies on how to use that. But the big one is the Smart Designer movies. And so you got a little section here. It says Smart Designer Pro 2018 movies, and you want to learn how to do that. Say you want to learn how to use circle text. You can watch a movie on that or do an athletic tale. But we also have the new CorelDRAW movies. So you can go down here and you want to learn how to set up your workspace in Corel. You can display the movie. And you can start it. So you guys can watch that all day long and shrink it and play it and rehearse it, and all that basic CorelDRAW stuff is built right into our software. So a couple of the things that you have to be tuned into, we're going to turn that Docker off, is when you have graphics, you got to be tuned into the concept of vector graphics versus bitmap graphics. And that's a fundamental principle in CorelDRAW when you're doing graphics for digital printing. And so what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to go to our template browser. And this is a little feature inside of Smart Designer. I'm going to go to our template browser, and I'll show you what templates look like. So templates are interactive designs, and we happen to have about 25,000 of them, and we know a little bit about design templates for CorelDRAW because we invented them 25 years ago. And so we have thousands of design templates, and this particular set of templates is from our Campus Pro marketing system. So every single month, we have a feature in Smart Designer that'll go down and download new templates and install them into our system. So like say I wanted to do Western designs. These are new Western designs that we did back in October. Let's say we wanted to do like school-related designs for back to school. These are teacher designs. And one of the things you'll notice, that's a one color. So if you're doing vinyl, that's a two color if you're doing like screen printing or multicolor vinyl. And this is your full color version. This is the one you'd want to use for doing sublimation. So that's a pretty good example of a template. Templates, also monograms. We're kind of famous for monograms. We have 3,200 monogram templates. So a monogram template, and everybody loves Vine. I'm pretty tired of Vine, but everybody loves Vine. This is one template. That's a variation of that template. That's another variation. So if I wanted to take this Vine monogram and I wanted to name drop it, I could just click on it. And then right over here, right in Smart Designer, I can just go to Edit Text. And we change that to an A, and now it's DAS. Boom, done. Want to make it a one color, just click on that, and now that whole text is welded together, and that's a two color design. So templates can be just about anything. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up a template, from our new Premiere Graphics program. And oh, by the way, templates can also be multi-decoration templates with rhinestones in them, because we also invented the process of creating a rhinestone design with a vinyl cutter. And what we've been messing around here all day, we're testing a new rhinestone decal film. We just updated our rhinestone decal film so you can make decals out of rhinestones, which is super awesome. And they can go on indoor and outdoor, pickup trucks and iPhone cases and all that fun stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to Premiere Graphics. Premiere Graphics is our new series of graphics where every single quarter we come out with new templates and clip art, rhinestone patterns, and embroidery designs. So if I wanted to go in and pick out a template and modify it, it's a starting point. And so we'll just kind of play around here a little bit. And these are just all different designs. Not sure which one I want to do. This travel section is kind of fun. Service businesses, we got St. Patty's Day designs. Got New Year's is coming up over here. So we got New Year's designs in there. Cats. I just did this one for my daughter. I did her on a pink shirt, and I used my vinyl cutter, and I just killed this line of text here. It says, "Are you kidding me?" And I did it in a light gray flock material. It turned out really good. There's bicycle designs, beer and wine, baking and cooking. These are just all so, hey, so let's say you're a mom and she's a big baker and you want to make a sublimatable apron for her. Okay, so we're just going to open up that template. Template's going to open, and over here on the side, it says edit text. Right there. So we can go down here and we can change all this. So we have it saying bake like a boss, and right here we'll say my mom's cooking this year for Christmas, so family Christmas. There we go. And then, since it says Mertens Family Christmas, we might as well kind of make that Christmassy. So I'm going to stretch that out there, right there. And we'll stretch that out right there. And these are all our fonts, by the way. This is a vector graphic. And so the reason I'm able to do this quite easily is because it's a vector-based graphic. And as a result of that, it has lines and objects. So I can select objects, I can resize them, they don't distort, they're not composed of pixels. If this was a bitmap, this graphic would look like this. It'd just be a bunch of pixels. And it's static, meaning I can't edit that. And so I'm just going to convert that to a bitmap. That's what a bitmap is. There's no editing on that. You might be able to trick it into changing colors, but you're not going to be able to go and edit the text. And as you're going to see jagged edges on this, if you scale it up bigger, it's going to get progressively worse. So ultimately what we want is vector graphics, because with the vector graphic, it's super easy to manipulate this. So let's customize this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to leave the little mixing pot in there. We could switch out that, but I'm going to go over here to color. And so we talked about that color chart. And I'm going to click on Modify Colors. And we talked about that color chart. So here's where the color chart is awesome. Okay, if you know what color you want from your chart, you printed out that chart on say a vaporware t-shirt or a tile, you can get that color number. And so if you know that 032 red is the red that you like the best, number one, we can reduce colors here. So I could say, hey, you know what? Let's not have a shade here. Let's just keep this color, this color, this color in white. So we'll do a color reduction. So now there's shades of color instead of a separate color. And then we're going to go over here to swap, and we're going to say, okay, I'm going to make this red 032. And we're just going to type in 032 red here, or you can just kind of scroll over to it. Either way, it's up to you. So now that's 032 red. And then this right here probably needs to be, I'm thinking that needs to be forest green. Kind of that fun Christmassy green. So we'll go in here and we'll pick a fun Christmassy green out of here. So there's a fun Christmassy green here. And then the other color, this light color here, 3415. We're going to make that 3415, but we're going to make it a shade of 3415. So 3415, and then we're going to make it a shade of that color. Okay? So, but we're doing digital now. And because we're doing digital, it means we can get crazy with text effects. We can do all kinds of fun stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a text effect to this. We're going to add some visual value to it. Because if we're doing sublimation, or if we have an Oki data printer or DTG printer, I've got the whole gamut of possibilities in terms of color. And so one of the things I think I want to do with this part right here is add a Christmas pattern to it. And so what I'm going to do is in Smart Designer, I'm going to go over here to Effects, and I'm going to go to Quick Fills. And when I go to Quick Fills, okay, here's the thing. This is not regular CorelDRAW. All this stuff is us. So you see that little button? It says Power Clips. And so we've got preset fill effects, gradients and blends. You got pattern fills you can apply. You got textures if you want to put like texture in there. You've got these little vector fills here if you want to do zebra print in there or add like digital camo or something. But what we're going to do is a power clip. And I'm going to go to my Christmas collection. And when I installed my Christmas collection, you know what it did? It put these little patterns in there. So if I click on this guy and I double click on that pattern, ta-da, we got plaid. That's it. And if we don't like it, we can just hit Control Z and undo it. And I'll show you something else real cool that we can do. I kind of like that pattern. I don't know, digital camo for my mom's not going to be great. She's kind of a feminine person. But we'll try this one. Nope, I like the original one. I like the original one the best. So we're going to do that one. Now here's the scoop. That's a power clip. So I'm going to teach you about power clipping. When we power clip this in there, if you go to View and you go to Wireframe View, you're not going to see anything in there because it's clipped into the vector. And this is, all these patterns are vector based as well. So, but it's clipped into the vector. And so one of the things you can do in Corel, you can right click on that and you get these little buttons that pop up here, or you can just go over here and say Extract Contents or Edit Contents. So I'm going to say Edit Power Clip, and it's going to pull it out, and then what I can do is I can reposition this anywhere I want. And when I'm done, I got a little button here that says Finish Editing. And that could just as easily be a photo. So if you had a photo of Rudolph and you wanted him, on the little sleigh going through the text, you can do that. Now, in terms of colors, what you can do is you can do some other fun things using your dropper tool in Corel, and I'll show you how that works. So if you grab your dropper tool here, you could go over and isolate, say, just that color green right here. It turns into a bucket, and you can recolor that with the other green. You can go over here, and then you could grab your dropper tool, grab that color red, and you could make that the same red. Pretty slick. So the trick is, and I was just dealing, this is pretty bad. I was dealing with the client yesterday, and she just couldn't get the whole color correction thing. And she didn't understand. She had Oki Data Printer, David. And she didn't understand. She didn't buy it from you guys, so she's buying all her supplies from you guys now. So I convinced her to do that. And so she didn't understand why the colors on her screen were printing out completely different than the colors that were printing out onto her transfer and then ultimately onto her T-shirt. And I said, well, because your monitor is not calibrated to match the printout. And I said, if that's a very, very difficult thing to do. So the best way to do it is to actually print out a color chart and then recolor to the chart. Man, she just couldn't get it. I couldn't figure out. I just couldn't figure out how to explain it to her. And then finally it dawned on me. I was like, okay, I got it. Okay, so you're looking at your screen and you're seeing the U.S. flag, red, white, and blue, right? And you think it looks all hunky-dory, right? But what monitor do you have? What brand of monitor do you have? What's the lighting conditions? What are the settings on your monitor? Those aren't the real colors. That's just the way your monitor is interpreting those colors. It just happens to look red, white, and blue. If you recalibrated that monitor so the colors are accurate, that could very easily be purple, burgundy, and probably white would be the same. And she's like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. So I said the colors that are actually correct are what's printing, not what you're seeing on your monitor. So what you need to do is you need to print out that color chart, pick the colors from the chart because you know what they're going to print like, and just recolor the image based on the chart. And then she finally got it.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, this is the easiest way to color correct things. Now, so this is a pretty simple design, and so what we're going to do is we're going to mock this up on a little apron. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the internet, and I'm going to open up our virtual samples feature right in Smart Designer. So I'm just going to boogie over here and go to Templates and go to Virtual Samples. And we're going to open up that feature. I can't remember if I have an apron already in here. Let's scan our way through there. So I thought I did an apron. Maybe I did. Next level. Can't remember. Oh, I got a little Conde folder over there. There's a white T-shirt.
You have a search for your...
Yep, I do, but I know I don't have an apron. So we're gonna snag an apron off the internet. You ready? So I'll show you a really neat thing we can do. This is a new feature we added in this new Smart Designer. So I'm gonna go over here to Clip Art and Graphics, and I'm gonna say Smart Capture. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to, just for grins, I'm gonna type in Conde Systems Apron. Never know. Aprons for sublimation printing. I just saw it there a second ago. Yeah. I think that's where you go to buy them. Right there. Hey, there's a whole little video on there. But what I'm interested in, David, is a blank one that doesn't have a print on it. So our good friends over at Sanmar are happy enough to provide those for us. And one of the things I like about these are not, I don't think these are sublimatable, by the way. I think they're just cotton or poly cotton. But we're going to come over here and we're going to use, I'm just going to type in apron, see what they have here. And these guys, doesn't really matter which one I pick. Let's pick, that looks like the boring old apron here. And I'm going to, look at, they don't even have white. What are these guys up to? How can you not have a white apron? That's the best color to mess up. Oh, there you go, white. And there's a product photography right there. So I'm going to click on that, and guess what I got right here? Capture. Click on the capture utility, and then we just take that and we just marquee around it, and that's just going to pop right back into Corel. And then once I have that back in Corel, in our virtual samples features, there's a little button right here. It says draw product placement rectangle. So we're going to click on that, and then we're going to resize that rectangle where my image area is. So we're going to put it right, got to get pretty far off the seam. We don't want to be too close to the seam because it's going to be hard to press it. So there's our little image area, or I could put it on the pouch if I wanted to, but I kind of like that right there. And then I'm going to create a folder. I can put it in my Sanmar folder actually. And I'm just going to do this, watch. Just going to click on it, and I'm going to say, I'm going to drag it and drop it in the folder, and we're going to name it, and we'll just call it Sanmar Apron. There we go. So that's added to our product blanks. Now, in the new Smart Designer Pro 2018, you have like 2,000 preloaded products, but it's never going to be the exact product you want. And so this is a pretty good way to get a product in there that it matches up exactly with what you guys are purchasing. So let's go back to our little sample here, and all we're going to do is go to our apron, and I'm just going to click on it, apron, and voila, there you go, bake like a boss. There's our little image there, and if we want to make it bigger, we can do that, or we can make it taller, move it up a little bit, and then if we want to make a little flyer out of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Proposal Sheets, and I'm going to clear that proposal sheet so it's got nothing in it, and then what I'll do is I'll pick a different style, so we'll do style number 4 here. So that's a preview what the proposal sheet looks like, and we'll just add that bad boy over there. And then once that's added, what we're going to do is we're just going to click on Create Proposal, and the software is going to populate all my company information and my company logo in there. There's my logo. So I've got that linked to my logo, and I'm going to have it watermark that. So put a little watermark on there, and we're just going to say Create Proposal. And that is going to create my little sales flyer. And the other thing you could do is you could save that out as a JPEG file, and then you can load it on your Facebook page. And you can say, hey, listen, we're running a special on sublimatable aprons. We can name drop these with your mom's name or whatever your family name is on there. And you are ready to rock and roll. And there's my, you guys like my watermark? Thou shalt not steal. So there, we'll kill the watermark off, and then we're going to kill that copy off. We don't need that right there because we don't have any stones in it. We'll kill that one off there too. So that's how we do it. And from there, you just have a little button here, publish that out as a PDF, and you're ready to rock and roll. That's it. Nice. So when you're doing sublimation, or you're setting up for any kind of digital printing process, the thing that you have to get used to is that whole concept of color correcting to accommodate the different process, because every process is going to be different. Color is going to print different with the Oki data printer. They'll print different for DTG. They'll print different for doing sublimation, and you have to kind of just go through that, for lack of a better word, take your lumps on the color thing. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about Conde systems, because they'll walk you through that. And I won't tell you who that client bought their system from yesterday, David. You could probably figure it out, but they really didn't get much training. And here she is. She's got this Okidata system, and she doesn't really know what she's doing, and she really didn't get a whole lot of training, and so she's just super lost. And we're trying to help her out, but I'm pretty confident that wouldn't have happened if she'd have bought her system from you guys. So just saying. So I'm going to open up a new document. We're going to do another project. In this project, I'm going to do something that's more along the lines of photographic. Okay, and I'll show you some kind of neat things that we can do. One of the things that we've done, this is pretty wild, David. You probably haven't seen this. Okay, let's do. I'm going to get an image of a Christmas tree. So we're going to see if we can get a good photo of a Christmas tree. So we're going to go, oh, there's a little Santa. I know if I click on that, Google's going to do some kind of animation on there. So let's find a nice little Christmas tree here. And wow, upside down, that's what I'm shooting for. I want an upside down Christmas tree. That would be awesome. I like this illustration right here. That's a good one. Let's see here. I want something with some lights on it. My grandmother used to flock all of her trees, and she'd do them in pink flock. I thought it was pretty funny. Okay, so this file right here, this is actually a PNG file. And you can tell it's a PNG file because it has the background knocked out of it. So if you right-click on that and copy it, and you try to bring that into CorelDRAW, it's going to have a black background behind it. You guys see that? So if you do it this way, there's a separate way to do it. And you right-click on it and say Save Image As. And we'll save that up onto our desktop. Ooh, that's actually a GIF, isn't it? So we're going to save that to the desktop, because GIFs can have transparent backgrounds too. And then we're going to import this. And you shouldn't have that black background. So Christmas tree. Okay, import. Boing. Okay, so there we go. So we imported that file, and this is pretty low res. So remember we talked about bitmaps? That's not print ready. And so the reason that file is not print ready is the following. It's the size. 220 pixels by 317. It's a really, really small file. So if you kind of go up in dimensions in terms of the resolution, like this one right here, that's a super high res photo right there. So that one's at 2100 by 3104. And it says image subject to copyright. So you want to be careful with those because you don't own that file. So this one's 517 by 794. The higher the pixel count, typically the better the quality of the image. There's exceptions to that because you could have a high pixel count and still have a low res image. So let's see if we can find, what's this one? 1000 by, not crazy about that tree, but that's a nice high res image there. Let's see here. Well, it's kind of a wreath thing here. That's kind of cool. That's a photo. Yeah, that's a little photo there. Doesn't really matter, but I want to find something because we're going to do some photo editing on it. And let's see here. 307. You can also use the little sorting thing and sort them in Google Images. You can go in here and like you have filters and stuff, and you go to settings and you can resort them. But we're just going to do a simple little Christmas tree right here. So let's see here. You would think this would be a lot easier. No, that's not bad. That's a nice big, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, this is going to be ideal. So I'm just going to say save image. And because it doesn't have copy image to clipboard, because it doesn't have that background, we can just paste her into Corel. And then kind of the way you're going to tell if this is decent quality is you're going to zoom in on it. And yeah, it's not bad at all. So if you pull back, it looks pretty decent. So what you can do with this file, a couple things you can do with this file. Number one, you can color correct it right inside of CorelDRAW. So you can, right inside of CorelDRAW, you can color correct it. You don't have to go to, people always buy Photoshop thinking, oh, I got to have Photoshop. No, you don't have to have Photoshop. You can do all this kind of color correction stuff right inside of CorelDRAW. And you have a feature right here under bitmaps, it says Image Adjustment Lab. Now you could auto adjust it. You could just click on auto adjust and see if you like the results it does. And actually did kind of improve it, got some of that yellowy kind of look out of it. But what you're going to do is you're going to go to bitmaps, Image Adjustment Lab, right here. And then what you're going to do is you can adjust all your brightness, your contrast, all that stuff. And so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go to select white point. And I'm going to find one of the lightest areas in this design right here. And then I'm going to click on select dark point. I'm going to find one of the darkest areas of that design. That's a really good way to adjust contrast. You can also go over here to the contrast filter and do it this way as well. So if you want to adjust the contrast, then what you can do is you can take a snapshot and say, great snapshot. Then the next thing you can do is if you want to change your brightness, you go over here and change the brightness, brighten it up. Over here, reduce the brightness. If it's a little bit too yellowy, you can go over here and you can adjust your temperature. If you move it over too far, it's going to be blue. And that's actually an adjustment for incandescent lighting. So if you go over here on your tint, I'd probably leave that alone. And if you make a mistake, you just go back here and click on your snapshot, and it'll go back to your original snapshot. So probably on this one, I'd probably boost the saturation up a little bit, just pop the color values, and we'll take another snapshot. And we'll take a look at them. Yeah, they both look pretty good. We'll just click on this one, and we've color corrected the image. Okay, so that's way number one. Way number two is interesting. This is a way we do it with Smart Designer. We've got a little new thing that we did over here. It's called our Capture Manager. So if we go over here to Manage Captures, right here, anything I've captured off the internet is going to kind of show up in the little list over here. So these are all files that I've been farting around with, and there's Willie Nelson in there and all kinds of different things. And we could go over here and we could just use the option from paste from clipboard, and then we can just paste that image in from the clipboard right there. And then we have our own color management thing over here, and it's all live and interactive. So if we wanted to play with the color channels and give that like a pink look right here, see what I'm doing? I'm turning it into a pink Christmas tree because I'm playing with the color channels here. I've got all these different filters. It's all live and interactive. I want to change the brightness. We can adjust the brightness here live if we want to, or the contrast. We can do that. You can adjust the contrast out on this one enough that you can probably knock the background out, which is what I've just done. And then we're going to go back over here to filter, and we could give it a hue filter. I'm going to go back over here to color, I think. And I'm going to purple that out, man. And I'm going to apply that color. There you go. Now we got the whole color scheme going, and I say save to CorelDRAW, and whammo. That's Smart Designer stuff. And so next thing we're going to do is we're going to play around with the power clip. So what I'm going to do next is play around with the power clip, and I'm going to open up a new template. So I'm going to go over here to select templates, and I'm going to scroll down here to photo templates. This is one of our graphics collections right here. And I'm going to go to photo templates and maybe go down here to events, or I could go to holidays or milestones, and then we could do like a little Christmas layout here. So let's figure out what we want it to say. And we could just do a standard shape too. So we could do a little standard shape, do a little sports thing going on there. So just got to find the one I'm kind of got to feel it when I see it. So I think I'm going to go to events, and we're going to go, let's see here. I think we're going to kind of go old school right here. And we're just going to name drop that. So we're going to say, where it says San Diego, we're going to say Merry. And then where it says Diego, we're going to say Christmas. And then where it says 2018, we're going to say 2018, we're going to say 2018. And I don't really need this line of text here, so we'll nuke that. So we're going to kill that guy off. We're going to kill this guy off. we're going to take that, we're going to move that over, and we're going to take the whole Mary thing right here, and we're going to smudge that over a little bit. And then we got to recolor this because we got to have Christmas colors, but I'm going to show you how we're going to do that in a second. Okay, so there's that. So we're gonna keep that there for right now, and then we're gonna get crazy. So just hang on. This is gonna be out of control. So next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna do a word cloud. This is a Smart Designer feature. So we're gonna come over here. I'm gonna go to Effects, Word Clouds. And what we're gonna do is the other day I went and actually copy and pasted. I just did a Google search for Christmas words. So I did a Google search for Christmas words, and I imported that, and that automatically populated this list, and we could add a couple more words in there too. I'll put Rudolph in there. Do Rudolph. There we go, Rudolph. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a word cloud. So it's just going to update that. There's going to be my word cloud. And then once the word cloud is done, what we're going to do is we're going to save that back to Corel. So it's just taking all those words and jumbling them all up together. And we're going to hit save. Okay, now we're going to get out of control. Remember that color manager thing we were doing? We're going to turn this into Christmas colors. So I'm going to go over here to the manager. One thing we probably need to do on that one is that's got a transparent background on it right now. So I think it's going to come in with a black background if we do this. Let's see how it comes in. No, it works. And then we're going to come down here. We're going to change these colors. So I'm going to go over here and kind of get it all kind of Christmassy colors. Maybe do like the whole green thing in here. Or we could do the whole red thing. Ooh, kind of like the red thing. So we're going to apply that color scheme to it. And if we want to, then you can go to color filters too. Then you can get real crazy. So you can go over and split the channels out and go to all these color filters, and you can do all kinds of stuff here. There's the original. No, we're going to leave that alone. And color on that, that's good. I don't think I want to do a filter on it. Could change the color balance just a little bit. Now it's more pinky. I think I liked it just the way it was. Oh, we kind of did a pink thing on the tree, didn't we? So maybe we want to do something a little bit more pinky. Yeah, there you go. Looks good. So I'm just going to save that to CorelDRAW now. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this and we're going to go back to our original document. And we're going to copy and paste that right into our little frame there. And we're going to use the power clip feature. Power clip inside. So we're going to power clip that in there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to adjust that power clip. Edit power clip. Maybe move that over a little bit. When we're done, we're just going to say finish. There's that. Okay. Where's our tree? There's our little tree over there. I don't know if we don't really need that tree there. Actually, this is kind of cool just the way it is. And then we're going to use this to go in and adapt the colors. So watch, remember the dropper. There's that. And then I'm going to use the dropper down here on this color. And we're going to make that border that color. And same thing on the drop shadow there. Voila. And Christmas, probably the only thing I would do is the word Christmas. I'm probably going to make that smaller. Move that over here like that. Nudge that over. And now you got a completely unique, so you can do that on a cutting board now. You could do that on an apron. You could do it on a t-shirt. You could do it on whatever you want. So you're in this particular project, what we did is we combined bitmap artwork and power clips with a vector-based template. And it's a really neat way to kind of bring in photographs. Now, on this one right here, we could extract that too. So we could extract that one. So Qigong. And then what we're going to do is go back to our Christmas tree over here. And then power clip this guy in there. Right click, drag it, drop it, power clip it. If I want to adjust it, just say edit power clip. When we're done, just say finish editing. And there you go. And then again, same thing with the dropper. You can recolor it with the dropper again. So just zoom in on it, grab your dropper, pick a color, and we'll pick this color right there. And boom, boom, boom. On that drop shadow, what I would do is probably use this lighter pink in here. Let's see here, probably this pale pink. There you go. That's how we do it. So this Corel 101. Corel's a super powerful software. You do not have to have Photoshop if you have CorelDRAW. You don't. You can just simply use Corel, a little trick, you can drag and drop color from one object to another using right click, holding down your shift key, and then dragging one object to another. It's a neat little Corel trick. So you don't have to have Photoshop to do all this fancy editing here. You can do all that fancy editing with photos right directly in Corel. It's a pretty amazing piece of software. We added the functionality for doing the color manager, and I'll show you why we added that, because there's another neat thing you can do. That's one of my favorite things to do. And we'll stick in with our Christmas theme here. Okay, hold on. Santa Claus, close. So what we want a picture of Santa. Yeah, this one will actually work. Okay, so this is the one we're going to work. We're going to take this and we're going to copy him in here. We're going to copy Santa in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to manage that capture. I'm going to convert him down to black and white real quick. So this is one of the really cool things on the new Smart Designer Capture Manager. When you're doing bitmap editing, this is one of my favorite things you can do. Where'd Santa go? This is all my captures that I've been working on. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go to split channels, and I'm going to split them out to the black and white channel. I don't know that we need to do that. Actually, I don't think we need to do that. I think we can do that. I'm going to adjust the color balance a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to turn them into a dot pattern, and then we're going to cut them with vinyl. I know, out of control. So ready? Smart Designer. Just go over here to Effects, and this is new in the new version. Just say Convert to Halftones. And there's Mr. Claus right there. And I'm going to change my dot size. So we're going to reduce our dots. We're going to take it down even smaller. Probably going to be around 8. It's going to be kind of the magic number. Yep, exactly. And then we're going to adjust my brightness right here. And that's going to pull the background out. Right, like that. We can play around with the contrast a little bit more too to get some of that detail back in there. There we go. Perfect. And then we're just going to say save. And that's a dot pattern. And that dot pattern, we can either print it, screen print it, digitally print it, or my favorite thing to do is cut it on my vinyl cutter. And if you have a professional class cutter like a Graphtec or a GCC or a Roland, guess what? These will cut like an absolute champ. And then you have Santa Claus in dots out of vinyl. Boom, mic drop, I'm out. So, I mean, smart designers, and I've only shown you guys just a tiny little fraction of what we can do with the software. But if you have CorelDRAW and you have, like, you know, our different add-on programs like Smart Designer, you've got kind of the keys to the kingdom. You can do pretty much anything you want, and you don't have to be a professional graphic designer. You have to be familiar with where the features are and how to utilize the feature, but by no means do you need to be a professional graphic designer. And one of the other things that you have is you got max flexibility across production processes. So a lot of you guys are doing sublimation and digital printing, but what if you also want to do maybe rhinestone multi-decoration, or you're doing embroidery or applique? Here, I'll show you. All you got to do, let's see here, we'll go do a little Christmas monogram. I'll go over to my clip art browser here, and I'll go to one of my Christmas packs, and we'll go to monograms, and we'll take, I like this one, that's a real cool one. So we'll take that one right there, and if I want to convert that into embroidery, guess what? I don't have to digitize it. All I have to do is open up my Drawings Pro software, and we'll convert all those vectors into a perfect sew file, no digitizing. Digitizing is a thing that professional people do that have spent years learning how to do. I know how to digitize. I've been doing it for 25 years. I don't have to digitize anything anymore. All I have to do is take this file right here. I'm going to convert it to Pantone colors because that'll automatically match the colors in my design to my thread colors. And I'm going to drag it and drop it in instant embroidery. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize it to whatever size I want, maybe 4 inches. I'm going to ungroup it, and then we're going to make that and that. We're going to make all these a satin stitch. We're going to make those satin stitches. I'm going to change that to green right there, and that, might as well make that a satin stitch too, right like that. What the heck, we're making satin stitches all the way around. There you go. Or actually, better yet, make that a fill stitch and give it a pattern. So we'll just make that a step stitch, and then I'll add a pattern fill to that, a little scallop fill there. There you go. I mean, that's ready to sew. All I got to do is save it as my sew file format, DSD or EXP or whatever I'm using. And I'm going to go to the color manager real quick here, and we're going to match that up to Madeira threads. There we go. Here's my instruction sheet. We'll just print that out. This is so perfect, by the way. And then what we're going to do is we're going to save it out as a DST file, so you can send it to your machine or whatever your machine format is. And even better than this, what we're going to do is I'm going to export this as an image file, and we're going to put this up on my desktop. That's why you turn your phone on Do Not Disturb when you teach a webcast. And you're ready, full circle. Here's your image file. You can just sublimate that. You don't even have to sew it if you don't want. You just do it as fake embroidery. Remember that virtual samples feature? Come down here, pick a product. Done. One system does it all. Every process that you could ever in a million years want to do, one system does it all. You know, if you're doing rhinestone multi-decoration and you want to take a monogram and rim it with stones, or just do, you know, Merry Christmas and stones, or just the word Christmas, now you got another whole module here. You just go over here to the Rhinestone Designer module, and you just come over here, and let's say I'm going to convert that into a rhinestone font real quick. Just go over here to fonts, pick a rhinestone font. See what we'll do here. We'll do Blockstone. That'll be a good one. Apply a size to it. Apply a rhinestone color to it. We'll make it green. We'll take that over here, and I'm going to convert it to rhinestones, and once I do that, I can ungroup it and split it. So we're going to take that, and we're going to make that red stones. I'm going to group it, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to arc it. So we're going to come over here to arcing, and we're just going to give it a little bit of arc, and then we're going to convert that back to perfect stones. And I'm going to tighten my spacing up a little bit here. This is what we do. We just take really complicated things and make them real easy. And last thing I'll do on here is we'll create a color separation out of that. So I'll just go down here and output it as a color separation. That's easy enough to do. So that's your cut file. And then we can send that straight to the cutter, or we can also go in and send that over as an SVG file if you have a Cameo or you have a Cricut cutter. So there's your two cut files for the two colors, and then we have an alignment system. And then last thing we'll do, we'll come over here and we'll make it a proofing file. So it looks like real stones. So we're just I'm gonna copy that into a new document and make it a proof. So I'm just gonna say proof it. And that's gonna be real rhinestones, and it's gonna be a proof. So that's how we do it. So, some of the questions that people always ask us is, okay, here's the scoop. CorelDRAW is an amazingly powerful program. You can do a zillion things with it. CorelDRAW with Smart Designer, Rhinestone Designer, embroidery software, that's a whole nother world. And so when people are looking at a system, what we like to do is we like to sit down with the client and we say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Client, what are your production processes? Do you do vinyl? Are you thinking about doing vinyl? Do you got a sublimation printer? Are you guys sending out things to have transfers made? Are you screen printing? Do you have an Oki data printer? Because partly the package that we end up selling you is going to be based on the production processes that you have. Then the other thing that we do is we say, okay, who are your customers? Are you dealing with primarily schools, teams, and sports? Are you working with small businesses? Do you have some niche markets that you're working with? Some of our clients work with fraternities and sororities, equestrian groups. We have clients that work with church groups, and we have specialized artwork for all of that. So we kind of try to develop the art package for the client. And then the third thing is a budget, because we have a program, it's called an anthology program, and it's all of our graphics collections all on one solid state hard drive. All you got to do is plug the drive in, and our technicians go on and install all your software for you, and they install all the artwork, configure all your fonts. It's like concierge service. But not everybody's going to be willing to invest in that on that basis. So what we do is we can start people out really small with just CorelDRAW and Smart Designer. It's a wonderful way to start. And as a Conde Systems client, you guys have a unique opportunity to get involved in Smart Designer at a pretty special deal. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a promo code on the webcast. So anybody checks out this webcast in the future and wants to take advantage of the same promotion, it's going to be just DAS Conde 2019. I'm skipping ahead. DAS Conde 2019. So if you call in or you email us, just mention that promo code. We'll hook you up with the special. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording portion of the webcast, and then we can open it up for questions.